All right, everybody, welcome to our first live MMA Mobsters YouTube event. Back together. The band is back together, Josh. So,
We are.
MMA Mobsters brought to you by Diamine.com and cellsaviors.org. Look, Diamine, the clothing company of the winners, live hard, play rough, Diamine, and then Cell Saviors, the pinnacle of athletic performance and vitality. So, Josh, it's been a while since we have really revved things up. I'm excited now that we've got Lee on board, we've got a producer, and we're back together. So we're going to start with the news, of course, and it's great to see you as well.
It's good to see you too, brother. How have you been the past few years?
Good.
Yeah.
Everything is solid and on the way up. We'll just say that. So in the news, some interesting stuff that you pointed out to me because I've been so buried in a lot of work that Rousey Carano are scheduled to fight Jake Paul, MVP on Netflix.
Yeah, this is a big deal. It kind of sounds like a game of Mad Gab where you throw a bunch of random words into a hat and see what happens. So the names we're throwing in the hat are Ronda Rousey, Gina Carano, Jake Paul, Jake Paul's promotion MVP, which is what the promotion that hosted the Mike Tyson fight, all the Amanda Serrano, Katie Taylor fights, and most recently the Jake Paul Anthony Joshua fight. And people make fun of him, but the guy has built really a billion-dollar empire on doing this, and I'm not laughing. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's a bunch of geriatrics fighting." Rousey and Carano aren't that old. It's not like, for instance, a Pat Miletich fighting now.
Pat Miletich versus Michael Nunn was big, bro.
I'm not saying it wasn't, but these women are. I think they're both right around 40 or in their early 40s. So it's not a retirement home fight, and just the fact that it's on Netflix means they're going to promote the hell out of it. You know how in this day and age in 2026 how important viral marketing is, and people are already talking about it. People are going to watch. I'm taking it seriously. I'll bet on it in some form or fashion. I am actually curious to see how they fill out the rest of the card. There's talks of Ngannou, who's technically a free agent, being on this card. Nate Diaz, Dustin Poirier coming out of retirement. Nate Diaz and Dustin Poirier have been trying to fight each other for about 10 years. And one last thing, and then I'll throw it back to you. People are saying, oh, your typical glass half full people on social media and whatnot are saying, well, this fight would have been cool 13 years ago. Would it have? I mean, Rousey has kept her flame strong. She did the pro wrestling thing. Rousey is about the massive celebrity that she was. I would argue that Gina Carano is much more famous now than she was 13 years ago when they tried to make this fight. Obviously, very successful acting career. She was a main character of a massive Star Wars show. Then she put some stuff on social media that got her in a little bit of trouble. But then her getting canceled made her more famous, especially to the right-wing movement. So Gina Carano, if anything, is bigger than she was 13 years ago, and Rousey's just as big. This is going to be a huge fight. I don't care what anyone says, and I think that the whole card is going to be very interesting and probably will rival the UFC White House card, which is to take place in July. So yeah, they have my attention. I'm intrigued. What about you, Pat?
They're going to have to solidify a lot more big fights to, get my attention a little bit more. We'll just say that. Moving on to UFC cuts. Guys with great records in the UFC have been cut. Basharat and Sakradinov?
Yeah, Basharat, Rinat Fakhretdinov, who is the UFC heavyweight? He just fought Jailton Almeida. Well, Jailton Almeida was fighting, your typical 8-4, 8-6 MMA heavyweight. He was cutting through him like a hot knife through butter, wrapping up submission fairly quickly. And then he starts fighting these top 5 guys, Pat, like Derek Lewis, Volkov, and most recently this Kuniev guy from Russia. These guys can wrestle, man. These Russians, even if they're predominantly strikers, they can wrestle, and they're shutting down his takedowns. If anything, he's just laying on top of them for most of the round, and the fans are rioting. And so it's just crazy to me that we're cutting winning fighters. It certainly is going to impact my job a little bit as a sports bettor. That Pat, I love these guys who will lay on you for basically the whole 15-minute fight. If they get a finish, great. If not, they're going to easily win a decision. Those guys are my bread and butter. Is the sky falling? No, but we're looking at these guys at least getting a little bit washed out of the UFC, which concerns me a little bit. They're all about finishes. They want to make the masses happy. I'm still not sure how I feel about it. I guess time will tell, right?
Well, and a lot of Russians and fighters from the stands are just, they're very tough people. They've had tough lives. They are, look, they're tough Russians, tough wrestlers, tough at everything. Tough sambo guys. They're beating people up. They're running through people for the most part. And, it's going to be called the, UF Russian Sea pretty soon if they don't thin the herd, right? And it is what it is. It's about marketability. It's about showmanship. It's about striking. It's about excitement. It's about getting people not only in the seats, but getting them to stand up out of their seats and roar. So,
Correct.
that's a big part of it. Marketability, and wrestlers who lay on you aren't as marketable. That's just kind of the way it is. But so that's the main part of the news. I mean, the biggest stuff we wanted to talk about. The last 3 weeks, not including last week because there was no UFC. The last 3 cards we have done, Facebook Lives leading up to this YouTube Live. And we've done pretty well. We've always done well when we've gotten together to pick winners and how these fights are going to go. Where would you put us percentage-wise, just the last 3 cards that we've done? We've got to be in the 90% or above range at this point. Are we
Yeah,
not?
probably something like that. I really can't think of a big bet that lost necessarily. It was fun. That first card we did where the UFC was first card on Paramount, first card that we did on Facebook Live a few weeks ago. That went extremely well. Sean O'Malley won by decision. I had him winning. I had that fight going to decision. We had the Gaethje versus Patty fight. I'm sorry, the Volkanovski one was after that. We had the Gaethje Patty fight. We had a pretty big underdog in Gaethje winning. I think that was around plus 250. And then it was plus 300 for the fight to go to decision. So we had both. If you combine the two and have Justin Gaethje by decision, we're talking like plus 900, something like that. So, yeah, it's we still got it. Apparently, I hope that I still have it. I depend on that to pay my bills. But yeah, it was kind of like riding a bike. You and I picked up where we left off, and very thankful to Lee Neese to get on board and get us back on YouTube and do things that you and I can't do. And yeah, this is going to be fun. We're going to make some money and get some picks right and probably have some laughs. And for the most part, Pat and I get along very well and have a ton of fun. So I'm looking forward to this, man.
Yeah, so let's move forward into this card, tomorrow's card for people that watch on Saturday, today's card. And this is, of course, we're recording this before the weigh-ins. So there may be fights that will drop out, of course, but we're going to cover all that are still existing right now. We're going to start out with Carly versus Miller. And so Judas versus Juliana Miller. And, when I look at Miller, her record's 4-3. And Carly's record at 5-2. I'm sitting here, look, as an old school guy who had 22, 23 fights before he got into the UFC, and I would prefer, if I coached again or was coaching currently, I would want fighters to have at least 15 fights probably at the professional level before they went into the UFC to make sure that they're ready for this. So we're looking at, a couple of pretty, inexperienced, although the amateur records, things like that, but not greatly experienced coming in. So how do you look at this matchup, number one, and lack of experience too?
Yeah, that's a wild. That's well, not necessarily Braun. You are one of the greatest MMA coaches of all time, but yeah, we've got obviously you have your outliers like Bo Nickel, who's coming into the UFC 1-0, 2-0, something like that. You don't see that much, but yeah, seeing a guy that we called his fight at Caged Aggression. I think his last name was Johnson. His fight ended in a bad eye poke, but he was fighting, I believe, for the amateur heavyweight title. He just had a UFC fight, and they signed him at like I don't know, like 5-1, something like that. He won his fight. But that's so you're saying about 15 fights is what you would want to see out of him.
Well, yeah, because if I'm putting a horse into a race, I want to win. That's just if I'm stamping my name, my gym, all those things on an athlete. I'm not there to just make a percentage off his purse. I'm there to win, as my athlete should be. Otherwise, he wouldn't have survived my training to begin with, right? He would have washed out a long time ago. So that's kind of the way I see it. But so when you look at these two, I mean, it's tough to really get a bearing. But where are the odds, and how do you see this one going down? And is it something that you would bet on?
Yeah, Carly Giudice is one of the biggest movers of the day. We're talking about a girl who opened up at -400 and she's been bet up to -800. And so that's big. Obviously, I would rather this line movement was happening in a men's fight. If it was happening in a men's fight, it would be a hammer lock for me. Women's MMA is a little bit trickier. I will be betting this, but it's a big number. I've seen women lose at this big number before, but obviously bettors are respecting her a ton to go from -400 to -800 on Bet Rivers, to go from -500 to 900 on Caesar Sportsbook. We're talking about her odds basically doubling. So this is their first show on YouTube in a while. I'll, in 30 seconds, very quickly break it down. Sportsbooks move lines because they want an equal-ish amount of money on the same side. So when people who are successful at betting, people who win at betting and bet a lot of money, bet a side, that'll move the line. So if Giudice, they right away, she's -500. They just posted the line. Someone who's very good at betting bets, I don't know, $10,000 on her. They're going to move that to at least from -500 to maybe -580, even -600. And then with several other people do it, that line's going to keep on going up, up, up. So that tells me that people who are very good at this are betting that side. One thing that I did think was a little bit funny, Pat, I don't know if you saw this. Her opponent, who we haven't talked about at all, Juliana Miller, was on social media, Twitter, Instagram, something, and she's like, I can't even, so there was a lot of F words in there, but she's like, bleep you, mother bleepers, you don't believe in me. I just saw that I'm a +800 underdog. Well, you're not. You're a +500 underdog. Your opponent's -800. She means that means I have 1% chance to win. No, wrong again, Juliana Miller. This means you have roughly about a 12% chance to win. So she's all worked up. She's mad. She feels disrespected. She also has no freaking idea how odds work and the math behind that. But I don't know what good going on social media and whining just a few days before your fight's going to do. From my understanding, we have pure wrestler versus striker here, and Giudice is just a way better striker. She finishes girls, which is somewhat uncommon in women's MMA. I think Giudice rolls through her. I'm not seeing a whole lot to believe in with Juliana Miller here.
Well, I'll agree with you on your pick and with the odds. So I've got the check box for who I pick, and then I've got the check box for the odds as well. So I will pick first who I think is going to win when I look at the comparisons between the two. Then I'll look at the odds, and that certainly will make me look a little closer at where money's going. But in this case, it just confirms my decision, that Giudice is who I would pick. So let's move on to the next fight. Jordan Levitt versus Yadir Delval. What are your thoughts on this fight? Number 50 featherweight versus the number 51 lightweight. So we have somebody moving down, obviously, in Levitt, moving down to the lower weight division to compete here.
Yeah, this fight's interesting to me. Jordan Levitt's whole thing is kind of he's a very good wrestler. He doesn't have any striking. And so he's kind of the kind of guy the UFC is looking to get rid of here. And they didn't do him any favors with this Yadier Del Val kid. He's already gone from minus 350 to minus 420. I mean, he's obviously much more well-rounded. And the thing about these well-rounded guys, and Pat, I think you'd agree with me, really any fighter who gets to the UFC level should be well-rounded. We can kind of see that there's so many fighters in the UFC now, you can kind of skate by with no wrestling for a while or no striking for a while. They want Levitt to lose. I think they're kind of ready to get Levitt out of the UFC. I think that's why they kind of gave him a nightmare matchup here. I like Del Val quite a bit. I think there's a pretty good chance he even finishes Levitt here.
I like where you're going with that. I agree with you. I see, both guys have two knockouts. Deval has not been finished, of course, by any means, whether it's knockout, whether it's submission, any of those. The guy's squared away. He's had pretty tough competition as well, and flown through with flying colors for the most part. So I go with Deval. Is that a lock for you? Would you throw a good number, amount or points on that bet?
Yeah, good question, Pat. It's certainly close to a lock, I would say, if we're working on a 5-star system, which is convenient because usually I don't bet more than 5 units unless I really, really love a bet. So if we're working on a 5-star system, 5-unit system, maybe 3.5 stars, 3.5 units, something like that.
Okay. So, yeah, we'll have to compare next week on all these numbers, and Lee's going to keep track a little bit for us. I want to see who comes out on top.
Yeah? Let's do it.
Yeah, let's have a little competition.
Let's do
Let's
it.
See.
Well, we're going to have to disagree every once in a while, which is hard.
And we will, and we certainly will. That's going to happen. So let's move on to the next fight. We want to do.
Hey, I had a quick question for you, and I think this will maybe be a good thing for Lee to clip. We were talking about the Russian wrestling Sambo earlier. Real quick, what's the biggest difference between American wrestling, which you're a pioneer of, and Sambo? Because we see that clash a lot, and this may piss you off, Pat, but I think Sambo may be getting the better of American wrestling recently.
Well, don't get carried away with that shit. Number one.
I knew I was going to get you worked up.
But two, Sambo and combat Sambo was designed for warfare. The history of Russian military, before, drones and tanks and missiles and, stuff got really complex and modernized and all of that. The Russian Sambo hand-to-hand combat stuff, being able to grab a hold of the gi top, hit throws, chokes, arm bars, all those sorts of things. So it has some judo combined in it, some wrestling combined in it. And then, of course, the Russian leg lock system, which the mentality is in that art and why it was created for combative situations was break your opponent's legs. That way you take 2 more soldiers out of the fight. You leave a guy laying there on the battlefield with a snapped knee, and then 2 more people have to come and carry him off, or at least one. So you take more than one guy out, and that was, created a long, long time ago. So it's very effective for, street fighting. You hit somebody with a throw and knock them out on a throw, things like that, and you add the striking into it, the boxing, the kicking, and you've got some pretty scary characters that are going to come out of Russia. I've certainly competed against some of those guys and competed in private practice sessions, things like that, with Sambo world champions, and they're legit. They're pretty scary individuals. So, so anyway, moving on to John Paul and Phil Rowe, interesting matchup, and John Paul went 7-1 in the LFA, technically his UFC debut. Somebody that spent that much time in the LFA, I have to give them credit for staying at that level for that long to get to the UFC. The LFA is a great proving ground, but you see a lot of people go into the LFA, get 1 fight, 2 fights, and they're right into the UFC, and they get chewed up and spit out. and that's not the case here with John Paul. So,
Exactly.
what
We
are your
saw
thoughts
our
on the fight?
guy Corntavious Romeus do that. Looked real good. We called his fight a caged aggression. One LFA fight. Boom, he's in the UFC. Promptly goes 0-3, and now he's out of the UFC. So you hit that one on the head. Yeah. So are you liking? Sorry, I interrupted you there. Are you liking John Paul here as the favorite? His line hasn't moved a whole ton, and I'm not loving this fight either way. I would probably lean with the favorite, but the line move is not doing much for me.
So you're saying he's favored right now? I haven't looked at the odds today. I'm just I want to lean on you for that part.
Yeah.
And
So he opened up at minus 210. He's like minus 205. So that's essentially no line movement. That tells me that probably not a ton of people are betting this fight. It's two not super well-known guys, and if they are, they're betting pretty much both sides equally.
and we'll do the listen. Here's $100. You're going to bet on somebody and make me money, or it's your ass. I want you to say one way or the other. Who are you picking?
Yeah, right now, John Paul would be my pick, but I'm
not going to bet it. But you're not going to bet it.
Not as of now.
Okay.
Might be
Okay.
a fight I bet live.
Yeah, and
Phil
John Paul was who I was after comparing the two and really looking deep into things. Quality of opponents, concerns me a little bit for John Paul. Phil Rowe, I think, has had, a little tougher opponents, but and of course, some more experience. But ultimately, I lean toward John Paul. So.
Same here.
All right, Ramiz Brahimaj against Soriano. I like both of these guys. I know both of them. I have called both of their fights. Ramiz Brahimaj, really a good athlete, well-rounded. Soriano, very strong, very hard-nosed. This is a really interesting matchup of two guys that I really like, and that's something that when I like two people, I know them. I've talked to them both and gotten to know them. I don't necessarily like picking, who I think's going to win because I don't want them to see the video and go, Milicic is an asshole. But I mean, it's a pretty tough matchup to pick. When you look at it, tell me what you're thinking.
Well, you're going to like this, Pat. Ramiz Brahimaj, who I believe is out of the Chris Weidman, New Jersey camp there, and Matt Serra, the Matt Serra, Longo, Weidman camp. Brahimaj has been the bane of my existence his past few fights, Pat. The same thing that's happening in this fight has happened every fight. The odds on Brahimaj go in the wrong direction, and his opponent goes in the right direction. In fact, I believe he was fighting Mickey Gall. Mickey Gall opens as the underdog and steams to favorite, which means Brahimaj now becomes the underdog. Pretty significant line movement, and Brahimaj just knocked him the F out in the first round. It really wasn't even close. Then that happened again in his next fight. Now look what's happening here. Juliano Soriano opened up as a minor underdog, like plus 110, but now he's like minus 115. But to anyone else, I'm saying, oh, you have my attention. I'm tired of betting against Brahimaj, man. All he does is not only win, but kind of, he's one of the rare fighters that seems to prove this line movement wrong. This following line movement system, incorporated with several other things, is very reliable, very good. I'd say it works about over 80% of the time. And you have guys like Brahimaj who seem to relish that role. I'm not sure why these big whale bettors don't like Brahimaj. Like I said, comes from a good camp, obviously can fight, but they seem to keep to one-on fading him. Pueno Soriano, he's one of those Islander guys. He hits really hard, decent wrestling, decently well-rounded. I don't know. You give me $100, I have to bet this fight. I guess I have to go with Soriano, man, but I can almost, this Brahimaj guy gives me nightmares because he wins every time, and he wins when the math doesn't necessarily say he should. So I guess take that for
both very tough guys. Soriano, is going to give Brahimaj problems with takedowns, I think. Very stout, and Soriano has a lot of power. Brahimaj might get him in the endurance area. He might get him there. I'm not 100% sure in that, but Brahimaj is also a guy that's got 12 submission wins. He's never been finished by submission. Pretty slick grappler. So I lean a little bit towards Brahimaj. And so, yeah, I'm going against the odds on that one for Brahimaj. So Brahimaj is my pick. So moving on to Jocelyn Edwards versus Nora Canoli.
Yeah, Jocelyn Edwards is at least she was the queen of split decisions. I believe she had like 4 split decisions in a row, which is just nuts. She does go to decision a lot. I believe maybe her last fight, she got kind of a fluke knockout. I'm going back to the well here. I like this fight to go to decision. That seems to be what Jocelyn Edwards normally does. As far as a winner, Jocelyn opens up at -220, out to -330. This card is going to give me heartburn, Pat, because we're looking at several female fighters who have had big line movement. So I have to bet them, but like I said, nothing sexist or anything, but it's just math. Math can't be sexist, right?
Merely mentioning it's not sexist is sexist.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, it's just math, over the course of history of my betting experience doing this full time, like 6-7 years, when guy fighters, especially in the UFC, have huge line movement, they almost always win. Women win more than they lose when they get this big line movement behind them, but it's far from a sure thing. So, yeah, I may do a Jocelyn Edwards, Carly Judice parlay just to, hate my life, because the math says that they're both very strong picks, but anything can happen in women's MMA. I do like the fight goes to decision quite a bit.
I lean toward Jocelyn Edwards, and that's where the odds are telling you to go as well.
Yeah, and I think Jocelyn Edwards, for you, Pat, has got to be interesting. I think she comes from South America somewhere where there aren't a ton of big MMA gyms. She's got all the tools to be a freak athlete. And I think
she trains in Vegas now with Nate.
Yeah, and I think
that at Team Couture, right?
Yeah, but she came from a place where there wasn't those options. So she's still sometimes finding herself. I think she gets better every fight, so that's a plus.
Okay, there you go. So Jocelyn Edwards is both of our picks. We just want to confirm that for Lee, who's keeping track. All right, good. And so moving on to the next bout, Alden Corla versus Louis Garuli. Is that how I pronounce that? Garuli?
Sure.
So neither one has had really super difficult competition. I will just say that. And so both have, really decent knockout power. I wouldn't say they're blazing, knockout guys or anything like that, but go ahead and break that down for everybody. Talk about the odds and where the money's moving, if it has at all.
Yeah, well, we're finally going to fight I have quite a bit of interest in, because it is a men's fight where one of the men has seen significant line movement. We're talking -310 to -420. You pot smokers at home will like that. -270 to -380 on Caesars. That previous line movement was on FanDuel. That's a big move, Pat. I like to see that. We're talking about your odds going up about 30%. I think Alden Correa cruises here. This of all the fights we've talked about so far, I like this one the best.
Yeah, that's who I picked to win. But hearing you talk about the movement in the odds confirms that that's both of our picks, and the majority of people that are throwing money down are moving that direction. So this is, for a card, when I really looked at it, it wasn't super easy. In comparisons, I think the matchmakers did a decent job. I don't think the whole card is, home team versus visitors. I think it's, and so they do a good job at the UFC, Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby of matching fighters up. And I think they've done a good job on this one as well. It's not just this is an easy fight for, so-and-so. So that's good. That makes it entertaining, right?
Yeah, you have 3 different kinds of UFC events, essentially. You have pay-per-views, which are going to be more loaded, and those are going to be in usually global locations. We just had Sydney recently. Vegas has a huge amphitheater where they can hold, I think, like 15,000 people. And then on the other side of it, you have the Apex in Vegas, which holds maybe 100 people. Those are a little more watered down. And then you have ones like these. This is being called UFC Houston. So not a pay-per-view, but still a traveling show. They're going to have that arena, the big basketball arena where the Houston Rockets play. That's going to be packed. And so, yeah, this card is stacked with above average fighters. I will say that much. Most of them are the average fan will recognize. It's a decent little card here.
Okay. Moving on with the card then, Alibi Adiris versus Ode Osborne.
I hate this guy.
What's that?
I hate this Alibi kid.
You never say you hate someone.
I don't hate him. I love you, Alibi. But he drove
you dislike because he has lost you money. Is why.
So
I'm just already calling it. I already know he's cost you money, and therefore should be thrown into the volcano of the MMA gods. I already know what that means.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Pat. Pat, and he should, MMA legend that he is, both as a fighter and a coach, Pat has a soft spot for the fighters. So anytime I go down that path, he quickly reins you back in. But yeah, at Alibi, man, he was a huge favorite. We're talking about like opening up. This was last year before you and I got back together, but recently last year, like maybe November or something, just gets steamed from like minus 200 up to like minus 500, which is about as close to a lock as you can get. And I believe fighting this jiu-jitsu kid from Uriah Faber's camp who hadn't fought for 5 years. It just kind of, and this guy just cut right through him, both on the feet and on the ground. And he was going into that fight 9-0, hadn't lost. This was for the Ultimate Fighter Championship. So does that leave kind of a bad taste in my mouth? Yes. I think the line movement's interesting. He opened up at minus 170, quickly got dropped down to about minus 135. So this is one of those fights where you give me $100 and say you have to bet it. I'm probably going the Ode Osborne side. Ode Osborne lost his last fight, but damn, he looked good. He was a huge underdog fighting Steve Erceg, who was a very good Australian fighter, who was maybe a minute away from winning the belt just about a year ago. Ode beat him up, man. Dropped him twice in the first round, then got kind of tired. Erceg took over 1 rounds 2 and 3, won the fight. Ode's no joke, man, and I think Alibi might be. So yeah, you give me $100, I'm going Ode Osborne at plus 110.
And again, the odds are telling where the money's moving. Where's the money at? Where's the money at?
Well, like I said, Alibi opened up at minus 175. He's minus 135 now.
So it's moving towards Ode.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not, again, this is not, for me, not an easy fight to pick. And I was really on the fence. And when I listen to you, look, I value your opinion, and everyone should. As much as I've been involved in the sport for as many years, I value your opinion because you know what the hell you're talking about, and you've watched a million fights, and you've analyzed these things, and you make your living off of it. When somebody makes their living doing something, you listen to them. And because I was on the fence, not to go against you, because I don't want to go against you, I'm going to lead towards I want to lean towards Osborne. If it was clear cut for me against to go with Adiris, I would, but it's not, and so I'll literally flow with you and jump on the Joven one train on this one, and go with Osborne on that. So both of us pick Osborne because of your influence.
Here we go.
All right, we'll move on to Carlos Leal versus the Njokuanis. I love the Njokuani boys. Great athletes, great fighters, always exciting, always looking to put people away. Very athletic. They're not the greatest grapplers in the world, right? But man, they're fun to watch, and they're warriors. So Chidi Njokuani against Carlos Leal. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, it's almost a carbon copy of the last fight. You have Carlos Leal Miranda, who was all over the place. He's minus like 700 against Alex Morono, who was on the downside of his career. Wipes out Alex Morono in the first round. And then he gets Muslim Saliakov. Muslim Saliakov's like 42 years old. He's also on the downside of his career. And Muslim, just a check hook from hell. Probably came out too aggressive. Miranda was feeling himself after that big Morono knockout. Man, Muslim Saliakov humbled him. Those Russian kickboxers, man, they're a lot more than just Sambo wrestlers. Some of those guys, Peter Yan and Muslim Saliakov, those guys can put you on your ass quick. That's what happened to Miranda. So, I mean, which Miranda are we getting here? Chidi Njukiani is kind of your definition of a slightly above average fighter, kind of a gatekeeper. And the same thing happened. Just like we had Alibi Idris open up at about minus 180, get his odds dropped down. It's literally the exact same thing here. Miranda opens up at minus 196. He's been dropped down to minus 130. I like Chitty quite a bit. I think Miranda's got some cage IQ issues, man. I think he's got some in endurance issues. Even in that Morono fight where he did win by knockout, he left it all in the cage. And if Morono could have survived for a second round, it would not have been looking good for Carlos Leal Miranda. So, and that's something that I look for. Some guys win, and I come away saying, even though he won, I want to bet against him in his last fight. Some guys lose, and I'm like, man, ton of heart. I want to bet on that guy in his next fight. Because, I mean, the pendulum, it's always swinging, you know. As humans, we can sometimes fall into this fallacy of, oh, he lost a fight, he sucks now. No, he's going to be even more motivated for his next fight, and he's even more likely to win because he lost that last fight. So, yeah, I like O'Day as the slight underdog in that last fight. I like Chitty even more. We're looking at back-to-back underdogs who I think will probably get the job done here on this card.
Yeah, and both guys have double-digit knockout victories. Both guys, obviously have striking power. But Chidi Njokuani, when he gets in there with a striker, is going to he's going to come out on top most of the time. He's got a lot of experience. He's got a great deal of reach. So just a long, lanky, really good, dangerous striker overall. Again, not the best grappler in the world. That's where he finds himself in trouble and why he, hasn't risen to higher levels, so to speak. So I roll with Njokuani on this one as well. And so you and I agree again, good sir. Moving on to Zach Reese against Michael Pereira. Well, number 34 Pereira in the world rankings against number 43 Zach Reese. What are your thoughts on this one, buddy?
I think Pereira might be done, man. He's it's just like I know
that's quite a condemning statement. That's quite a condemning statement.
But I mean, I know that you have done a ton of research for this card, but I would encourage you to go back and watch his last couple fights. This is not the same Michel Pereira that's coming in there doing backflips off the cage, just dominating his opponent. He used to think the book on Michel Pereira used to be the only one who can beat Pereira is himself. He's so dangerous. He's so athletic. He's so just tight coil muscle good. He's faster than everyone and stronger than everyone. The only thing that can get him beat is if he fights with a low IQ, gasses himself out. That's the only way he can lose. Yeah, that's not him anymore. The guy we'll be talking about in the main event, Anthony Hernandez, just tossed him around for 5 rounds.
Right.
And then he fights Abus Magomedov, where he's the favorite, and he just stares at Abus for most of the fight. It wasn't like Abus did a ton of work. I mean, he outworked Pereira, but Pereira's just staring at him. And then he fights Kyle Dawkins, who got cut from the UFC. He's nothing amazing. Dawkins knocks him out in 40 seconds. So that was kind of, I mean, we're looking at least 2, if not 3 fights where I don't recognize the fighter that I'm seeing. And Zach Reese is hungry, man. I believe Zach Reese was a caged aggression guy. He's a Midwest guy, and has had a few fights in the UFC. Has showed he can wrestle. Has shown he can strike. He's raw. He's green. But if Michel Pereira is just gonna stare at you and wait for that perfect counter, you know who he reminds me of, Pat? He reminds me of Tyrone Woodley in his last 6 or 7 fights in the UFC, where where
Gun shy. He's just gun
gun
shy.
shy. Yeah. And what that shows is it's a lack of confidence in your skills, because Woodley got so tired of hearing people say that he's gun shy. He went out guns blazing against Vicente Luque, and Vicente Luque just counters him and puts him down in 2 minutes. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Where were you saying the numbers were moving on this one? Did they move a lot?
I really haven't. This is more my insight on just really being disgusted from what I'm seeing from Pereira recently. Pereira is the favorite. He opened up at minus 155. He's minus 160 now, so that's essentially no line movement. So yeah, this is all me. I really want to fade Michel Pereira. I kind of wish that the line movement was agreeing with me, but if the line movement was agreeing with me, then Zach Reese wouldn't be plus 140. He would have moved to like minus 120 or something. So,
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, in a way, I'm getting a better price on Zach Reese, but I'm kind of wondering why everyone's not just following me on this Zach Reese train, because the line hasn't moved heavily in his direction.
Well, maybe not everyone is paying attention like you are. How's that? Maybe, just maybe. I mean, including myself. It's not a fight I would bet on, to be honest with you. It's not something that, I mean, you feel that Reese is worth it because of the plus money, the plus numbers?
I do, and I one of the things I enjoy doing on the show is being transparent, because sometimes I'll hear myself say something.
Man, that made me nervous there for a second. You said parent there.
I go off screen and come back on.
It's totally classless humor. Keep moving.
I'm wearing a wig or something. Yeah, that was the big reveal, Pat.
All right.
Oh Jesus, no, I do enjoy being transparent, because sometimes I'll hear myself say something. I'm like, well, I'm kind of contradicting myself. Maybe I should go back and think about that. So that's all fine. But I will be honest, I've bet on Zach Reese in his last couple fights, and he's won. I had a particularly big bet on him in his fight. I believe it was November 1st, and he looked good, and he showed us a ground game that he hasn't really shown us. Before then, he just kind of threw crazy hands. He knocked out Colombian Missile Crisis is his nickname. Anyway, Julian Marquez. And Julian Marquez is a former top 15 guy, and Zach Reese made quick work of him. But that's a trap you have to not fall into. It's not, this guy's made me money his last two fights. He's a lock. So, like I said, he's not a lock, but for a guy who I believe Zach Reese is getting better every fight, and I believe Michel Pereira is getting worse every fight, it's kind of a no-brainer for me. It's not going to be a lock, but it's something I'm interested in.
Well, thank you for that. And I'm leaning just barely towards Pereira. Hope, just a little hope for him. And then, so we do oppose each other on that one, so we can keep track of that. But moving on to Jacoby Smith and Josiah Harrell, this one's the two unbeatens. Management apparently taking the fight, putting their undefeated fighters against each other, fairly early in a career, right? Unbeaten versus unbeaten. 2-0 LFA record for Harrell. Smith has already got 2 fights in the UFC, 2-0 in the UFC, of course, and both guys have decent percentage of knockouts. I'm looking at the quality of opponents that both of them have had. Maybe a little better for Jacoby Smith. What are your thoughts on this?
Sorry, I'm still chuckling at your transparent joke. That's one of the things that I missed most about this show is Pat can catch me off guard and give me a little sideways. So here's my read on this fight, Pat, and tell me if you agree with it. 2 undefeated guys, but Jacoby Smith has more UFC experience. So bettors usually aren't grinding out LFA. You can bet on LFA only on a couple books. It's difficult to do.
Right.
Bettors aren't grinding out these smaller promotions like Caged Aggression that you can't even bet on. They're grinding out UFC fights. So we've seen Jacoby Smith.
Sure.
Very good. Very athletic. Very powerful. Very dangerous. For all we know, Josiah Harrell is just as good. He certainly on paper looks just as good, just as dangerous, tons of finishes, just as strong, just as fast. In a way, they're very similar fighters. we've just seen Jacoby Smith under the bright lights of the UFC,
Right.
not so much with Josiah Harrell. So I think that explains the line movement where Jacoby Smith opens it up at minus 310, and he's only moved to minus 325. This guy, Jacoby Smith's rolling over everybody. We just don't know how good Josiah Harrell is yet, but from his track record and his pedigree, he looks to be the next Jacoby Smith. He looks to be everything that Jacoby Smith is, possibly more. So I have a lot of hesitancy betting this fight. This may be something where I watch the first couple minutes, Pat, and if Josiah Harrell is hanging in there, then I want to bet Josiah live. If he looks like the bright lights of the UFC are getting to him there in Houston, maybe I look for the other side.
I think, here's my honest breakdown of this. Harrell's better on the ground. I think he's better on the ground. His percentages, as far as finish percentages, and he moves pretty dang good on the ground. Smith, not bad on the ground. He just prefers to knock people out. But at the same time, you look at Harrell's KO percentages on the feet, no slouch. I almost want to go with the underdog, even though he's untested in the UFC, because when you get to the UFC, the first time you walk into that cage, everything changes. It doesn't matter. It literally nothing else matters psychologically necessarily at that exact moment of the lights, the crowd, the intensity, all those things happening. A lot of people break at that point. I don't know if Harrell's going to break. If he's not going to break, he's, I think, a real threat for Smith because he is a little better on the ground in my humble opinion. And the striking, we're going to find out, but I think so. If I'm betting an underdog on this card, it's going to be Harrell. I'm going to lead towards Harrell if that's an underdog bet. Untested, as you said, 2-0 in the LFA, not the UFC. So a long shot bet to have fun with and point at your friends and go, told you.
Yeah.
Maybe something like that to have fun with just a tiny bit of money. Don't get cocky. But, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The odds are moving towards Smith pretty hard, though.
I like that, Pat, and I want to hit on something before I move to the next fight. I was very interested in what you were saying about how big of a deal it is when you make that first walkout to the UFC and get in that cage for the first time. I do talk about the bright lights of the UFC, but I guess I didn't realize how big of a deal it was. What would you say to a young fighter during training for their first UFC fight, in the locker room for a first UFC fight, or even when you're carrying his water bottle and mouth guard walking out to the cage? What are you saying to him? It's just a fight. We're back in the training room.
No. I mean, for me, my experience was totally different than these guys are going to have because I was fighting in 8-man tournaments where you had to fight 3 times in one night. There were no rules, no time limits, and no weight divisions. So I was fighting guys that were all bigger than me, under no rules and no time limit. Like as long as the fight took to finish somebody, that's how long it went, right? So it's a totally different preparation for them. But how much experience do I have coming in here? What type of opponents have I had? Has my management brought me along correctly with tougher and tougher opponents to get me ready?
Okay.
All of those pieces need to be in place by the time you get to the UFC if you have intentions of winning a world title. If you don't have intentions of winning a world title and wearing your UFC T-shirt around and going, I was in the UFC to pick up girls at the bar someday, great for you. Whatever you were, and also you were cannon fodder. But if you're planning on winning a world title, you do it the right way, and that's just the way it is, right? So
I have goosebumps. Clip that, Lee. That was awesome. I have
Josiah Harrell. So look, if you want to have fun with it, long shot bet Josiah Harrell. Okay.
And just for you people keeping track at home, a $100 bet, you would turn $100 into about $360. So you would just about triple your money there.
Okay. All right. So Spivak, who I don't know how high you are on Spivak, tough guy, rugged guy against how do I pronounce it? And I'm embarrassed actually. Delia.
The
Ante Delia, right? He's Croatian. I'm freaking of Croatian descent.
Oh, no. Okay,
right?
Here we
it's
go.
Embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing. But look, Dalia's ranked 13th. Spivak ranked number 9 in the world. Dalia only has 2 fights in the UFC. He's 1-1. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you asked if I'm a big Sergey Spivak fan. I am this weekend because once again, Pat, this is a really weird coincidence. For the third time, we've seen a guy right about minus 180 get dropped to minus 140. Ante Dalia, somewhat of a journeyman, fought quite a bit under the PFL banner, had some success in the PFL. And it's been really interesting, and perhaps on another show when we have more time, we'll get into these PFL fighters who have come over to the UFC because PFL bought Bellator and then completely ruined both promotions in the matter of a few months. And so we had guys like Michael Venom Page come over, do very well in the UFC, and then we had guys like Patchy Mix come over, get booed, get embarrass themselves, and get the hell out of the UFC. So it is the top proving ground. It's a bunch of alpha males going against other alpha males and alpha females too. This is the best of the best. There's no question. I don't care what the guy who runs ONE FC says. I don't care what these guys say. The UFC is the best. And when you're here, you better be ready to go. And so we saw him come in. Marcin Tybura, very solid heavyweight. Put him out, Pat. First 2 minutes. This guy's got hands. He's got that Croatian power. And then a really weird fight against Waldo Cortez Acosta, who's now looking at fighting for a title shot just a few months later. Yeah. He hurts Waldo and knocks him out, but then they're saying, I poke. Ante Dalia's hugging his trainers. 2-0 in the UFC. They said I couldn't do it. I'm coming for the title. And the ref is like, I don't think the fight's over. And so they pick Waldo Cortez off the canvas, give him a few minutes for his eyeball and his noggin to now recover, because not only was he eye poked, he was knocked the F out. What does he do? He knocks Dalia out. And you can probably, from that, imagine if that happened to you, Pat, both sides, obviously getting knocked out, getting back up, but your opponent has had this massive adrenaline dump. They don't think they're going to have to fight for another 6 months, and all of a sudden you have to fight again. It's not easy, and so a really weird fight that would certainly mess with you mentally.
Oh, big psychological. Big
yeah, that's why he's 1-1. And Spivak's good, man. Spivak, well-rounded, probably more of a ground game, but has stand-up too. I understand the line movement. I support the line movement. It's far from a lock, especially of heavyweights. Anything can happen, but the book is out. Is Ante Dalia any good? We need heavyweights. The UFC division, heavyweight is by far the weakest division. I would say that the women's divisions are even stronger than the heavyweight. The talent pool is not great. Either of these guys could go on a run in the heavyweight division. So when I see Ante Dalia go from minus 180 to minus 140, that means people are backing Spivak. I'm going to back Spivak too.
All right. So look, Spivak is better on the ground, in my humble opinion.
He is.
I think he's better on the ground, and so that poses some problems for Dalia in this matchup. I think Dalia has the power to put him away, but Spivak obviously has plenty of knockouts to himself. I'm going to lean just this much towards Dalia, and I think he's got the ability to put him away, and I think that Spivak is going to match up with him and want to dance with him. I think they're heavyweights. They're going to want to throw bombs in this, and so I'm going to go with Dalia by KO.
I like it.
By KO.
So we disagree again. There's going to be a little bit of victory lapping on the next show. A little bit of trash talking. Hey, Pat, I don't know if you know where the chat box is, but our buddy Hamza Mir 15 is back. So shout out Hamza Mir. He was very supportive when we were doing the show before. So
Awesome.
he has a question. He goes, "You guys are back," and then he throws in, "Dalia is trained by Crow Cop." That makes sense with them both being Croatian.
Sure. Yeah. So thank you for that, by the way, and thank you for joining us and letting us know. Crow Cop, the Hall of Famer, without a doubt. So we want to go with Dan Ige or do we want to go with Costa?
Melquizel Costa opens up at minus 250. He's now minus 220. This is kind of becoming a trend in this card. Kind of. There's several guys that have the right direction line movement that I'm backing, but there's a few guys that don't that I'm backing, and Melquizel Costa is that guy. I think Melquizel Costa is a future champion. I think if not, he'll certainly fight for the belt. He's good, man. A lot of people get a little distracted by he's an ugly mofo. He's got a skin condition that gives him leopard spots, but he freaking embraces it, man.
Oh, that makes him beautiful, bro.
That's
that makes
him beautiful. Yeah, he embraces
you can't call people ugly because look at the scar tissue. I'm in trouble. I'm having problems too. So the different colored skin I think is actually pretty cool.
I agree.
Very marketable.
It is marketable, yes. People know who he is now. They don't give you a UFC contract for your good looks, that's for sure. So Melquizel Costa, he's good, man. He's really, really good. He is. And again, you know how much I love well-rounded fighters. He's phenomenal on the ground. He's phenomenal on the feet. I think he started out, his strength was the ground game. And then he goes up in his last fight, just this head kick from hell against the French fighter that he was against, and just puts him out. Had a pretty big bet on him. I was happy about that. Dan Ige has seen better days. I think we're looking at the down end of Dan 50K Ige's career. It's been a hell of a career. Not quite Hall of Fame level, but they call him 50K Ige for a reason. He gets those bonuses. He's a veteran, ton of respect. I just think it's Melquizel Costa's time. And I think Melquizel Costa should be like minus 400 in this fight. So getting him at minus 200, I like it.
Here's the thing with this. I think Costa against Dan Ige is for a reason. They want to find out what Costa's made of, period. And Ige is going to be the guy that forces you to find out what you're made of.
Agree 100%.
Ige, never been finished, if I'm correct, right? Never been finished.
Believe so.
He's good on the ground. He's good standing up. He's rugged. He will stay in your face. He will keep coming. Will Costa break under that pressure? That's what my question is. Because Ige is going to bring it. Ige is going to bring it, brother. And God, it's incredible with Ige. I think Ige is getting he's had some fights in the recent past where he's actually looked really, really good. Now he's lost some decisions, of course, but he's looked very good. This is a tough decision for me to pick a winner to say I'm going to gamble on. Again, I like going with the underdog. I like going with the guy that's the plus money right now, and that's Ige. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Let me ask you this, Pat. Would you rather put your hard-earned money on Melquizel Costa to win at minus 220 or fight goes to decision at like minus 225?
Fight goes to decision.
Exactly. I like that bet a lot.
Yeah. I like where you're going. That's why you're the expert.
Now, and I know we're about to hit our hour here that we try to keep it under, but one quick question. Does what I said earlier concern you at all, how they're really kind of peer pressuring guys to get finishes? Because you know that I like to bet several of these fights. I don't bet every fight goes to decision, but there are several that, I guess we'll just have to go week by week. But if guys are being told, you better get some finishes or you might not have a job anymore, we don't care if you win, that may change the landscape of things a bit.
When it came to, like Pride Fighting Championships and the Rings organization and, other organizations in Japan, it was, listen, if you're exciting, you're coming back. Like they didn't even care win-loss. They wanted you to be exciting. And they, over in Japan, the Japanese organizations were 100% entertainment. It was amazing to watch back in those days. I don't think it's a terrible thing. I think it will eliminate the guys that can win world titles in somewhat, like the Russians and the guys from the stands, Kazakhstan and places like that, who go out and lay on people and win world titles. But again, this is about entertainment. This is entertainment, and people pay money for entertainment. So that's kind of just the way it is.
Well said.
So Jeff Neal against Medic. Dude, another, I think, a great matchup. I think they're evenly matched in many ways. So hats off to the matchmakers over there, Maynard and so what's your thoughts on this?
This is a hard card, buddy. I mean, just top to bottom, if you make money on this card, you know what you're doing. This is a tough card. There are very few fights that I'm just jumping up and down to go bet. A lot of close fights, man. I think we may very well see several fights go to decision. Uros Medic. Yeah, I think we're Uros Medic and Jeff Neal, two guys that were seen as potential future champions and didn't quite get to those lofty heights, but didn't suck either. Have settled in as definitely above average gatekeeper, very good fighters, fighting the best of the best there in the UFC. Saw Jeff Neal get knocked out pretty brutally by Carlos Prates, but Carlos Prates does that to everyone. He'll be fighting for a title soon. There's no shame in that. Jeff Neal's a little bit older. He's seen a little bit more wear and tear. So it's a tough fight. I don't know. This is hard. Neal goes from minus 196 to minus 220. So that's a little bit of line movement in the Jeff Neal direction. I'll tell you what I don't get. I do not understand why fight ends inside the distance is minus 800. I think that's way too big. I would put it at like minus 200. If this somehow goes to decision, you're going to make a lot of money betting it to go to decision, but it's minus 800 for a reason. It's going to be like plus 600 if you want to bet the other direction, which I'm tempted to do. I don't know. I guess Jeff Neal wins, although he is getting quite a bit older. And if you want a really crazy bet, throw $10 on fight goes to decision, because I think that could certainly happen.
Well, both very tough guys, very rugged guys. Both have good knockout ratios. Both But here's my thing is with Medic, he has not gone to a decision, right? He's not gone to a decision, which makes me, he's going out on his shield, or he's sending somebody else out on their shield, and most likely it's his opponent most of the time. I think he's going to push the pace. I don't think it's going the distance, although both guys are tough enough to go the distance. Certainly, I don't think Medic wants it to go to the distance because he's shown that in past fights. Neal's had tougher opponents, but I'm going with Medic. I'm leaning towards him with upset victory.
I like it. Main event time, huh?
Yeah, main event. And remember, for the main event every week, for the people that are listening to this, if you get it in by noon on Saturday, fight day, your pick for who's going to win the main event, how they're going to win, submission or KO, or what round, I should say, or if it goes to a decision. If you get all those right, you win a bottle of Cell Saviors and you win a shirt from Dimeen. So we're handing out free stuff. So if you do a great job and you pick the winner, what round, and by how the fight ends, you'll get free stuff. So everybody out there, jump on board. We want to give stuff away, don't we, Josh?
We do.
We want to give stuff away. Yeah. So anyway, Dimeen.
What if they copy our pick? Because we've pretty much predicted the last three main events correctly. I know that we nailed Gaethje by decision. We nailed Volkanovski by decision. And then I believe I had Mario Bautista by knockout in the third round, and he won by submission in the second round. So they could just copy our picks and be.
Well, they could, but we're not perfect. So by all means, do what you feel. Do what you feel is right. So anyway, Sean Strickland. You look. everybody knows who Sean Strickland is. Straight warrior, been around for quite a while. Love him or hate him, the guy's always going to bring it. Very, very hardcore, very tough, hard-nosed guy against Anthony Hernandez. I've called Hernandez's fight before in the LFA back in the day. Talented guy. I mean, tricky guy. This is a really interesting matchup. And Hernandez is favored, right?
He is. He is. Line movement's been weird, man. We saw Hernandez open up. Let's look at Caesars here because that's pretty indicative of what's going on. Opens up at minus 260, gets blown out to about minus 320, and then he drops down to minus 275. So he's basically right where we started. And I think that gives you, it's kind of fascinating, that gives you a little telescope look into what bettors are thinking. They're like, holy cow, this fluffy Hernandez guy is just melting people. Michel Pereira, he just gets on you and he just melts you. He seems to have an endless gas tank. He destroys Michel Pereira. He destroys Roman Dolidze. So he's getting these tough guys and just throwing them all over the octagon. His striking worries me. He's definitely most confident getting the fight on the ground and kind of ragdolling you there. We saw him fight Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen pieced him up in the first round, standing, and then Fluffy's like, "Okay, I'm just going to take you down and control you there."
But when those two fought in the LFA, I called that fight, and Hernandez got mounted 4 times in that fight. I think it was 4 times, and I was losing my mind as a broadcaster because I had my coaching hat on, and if it was my fighter, I'd be raising hell with him for giving up the mount that many times. The fact that he won that fight shows like how well he came back from being mounted 4 times in one fight. Definitely a tough guy. Definitely comfortable on the ground no matter where he's at. Even if he's mounted, he's got great composure. But at the same time, nobody has finished Strickland on the ground. He's 4-0 in the submission department. I think Strickland's stronger than him. I think Strickland is solid on the ground. I think that Hernandez runs into problems with his bread and butter if he uses that against Strickland.
I agree, and I think that's the consensus from a lot of people right now. What was I talking about a few fights ago? I said that it's usually very short-sighted to say, well, he looked like crap in his last fight. He's going to look like crap in this fight. I know I've said that with Michel Pereira, but we're talking about 3 fights now where he has looked like a different human. Strickland had a bad fight. He very narrowly loses a split decision to Dricus.
Yeah.
Comes back, fights Paulo Costa, keeps him at range. People called it a boring fight, but he basically dominated Costa for 5 rounds doing the Strickland way. It's jab, jab, footwork, throw an overhand, reset, be hard to hit. That's how he beat Israel Adesanya, one of the best in the world, to win his title that he only had for a few months, but how many people can say they were a UFC champion? Anthony Hernandez's main weapon, Pat, is he weaponizes cardio. And he is there in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round when his opponents are not. Well, Sean Strickland hard spars for like 7 hours every day. He's
got
nuts.
19 decision fights.
Yeah,
he's been the distance in
and that's
a
why,
shitload of fights.
Because Strickland also weaponizes his cardio. So
Sure.
I think that Anthony Hernandez may very well be getting a mirror image of himself. And I don't think he's fought anyone with as good cardio as him. I love fight goes to decision. Fight goes to decision, depending on your book, minus 120, minus 130. That's essentially double your money. It is a 5-round fight, so you're going to be doing your share of pacing back and forth. But it opens up. Fight goes to decision is minus 115 on FanDuel. Now it's minus 150. That's because smart people are getting behind it. As far as a winner here, I'll jump on. I guess I'm going to jump on the Strickland bandwagon here with you. I kind of have to because I think it's a 50-50 fight.
I knew you would.
Well, Pat, if I think it's like a 50-50,
I was sending you vibes.
You set me up. If I think it's a 50-50 fight, why wouldn't I bet the guy who's plus 220 if I think it's a 50-50 fight? So
right.
I do lean Strickland, but I love fight goes to decision, and I'll be betting fight goes to decision will be one of my most heavily bet bets on this card.
Great minds think alike. I've got Strickland by decision. So anybody listening to this, get your pick in. Who's the winner, how it ends, and the manner that it ends. And you can win free Cell Saviors and free Diamine clothing from Diamine.com and cellsaviors.org. So, hey, man, great first YouTube live. I really appreciate you. The Chauvin one, the Oracle of Odds, Joshua Chauvin. Great work as always. And we will compare notes next week on our episode of MMA Mobsters. And until that time, good luck to everybody out there. If you're betting, do not bet the house on everything we say. Take into consideration your common sense. Bet wisely. Do not break yourself, and do not get addicted. If you do get addicted to gambling, reach out for help. So anyway, bet wisely, bet minimally, have fun with it, and that's the way it's going to be. Until next week, for my co-host Joshua Chauvin, I'm Pat Milicic, checking out, and thanks again for watching, everybody.
Hey, yeah, hey, giving it all, hey, yeah. I'm giving it all I could give. Run up and taking my pick, then bringing it back to the crib. Yeah, you know how I go. We finding the gold, the deeper we dig. So we just keep digging till we finally get it. Like fuck it, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Yeah, I gave you my word, don't break it for no one. You know I'ma keep what I said. Ready for war, I've been deep in the trance. Been jumping since I had them streaks in the bed. Ice in my body, I'm cold under pressure. Recovered like I had no heat in the vents. Shooting, I don't have a conscience, too much to accomplish. You know I can't leave it to chance. Yeah, throw it in the bag. Throw some dots, I'm Jackson Dart. I'm out of pocket playing tag. Catch me if you can, empty out the mag. Took the lead, I run the track, and I'm never looking back. Going for the moment, always rolling with the punches. Find a way to see through the ceiling, put a plumber. Smoke is in the air, keep it heavy in abundance. When the dust settles, let's see who remains.